Hey Derek, for Reflection 5, I decided to do a webcam video. I've never actually shot a video using a webcam before. And the article I read was about the apprenticeship of observation. The article explains that the apprenticeship of observation is the amount of hours each teacher has observed other teachers throughout their education. So every teacher that I've had, I've kind of observed how they taught. It's really kind of an interesting concept because, especially in some of my previous classes, we've talked about how that can be a really good thing. We can look at what teachers have taught, how teachers have taught us in the past, and kind of take some of the best strategies from that and use them as our own. But this article kind of talks more about, well, it specifically talks about student teachers first coming in to a classroom and how oftentimes they will kind of completely forget all of their training and they will just revert back to what is more natural to them, and that is kind of what they have gathered from teachers in the past. I think when you consider this and a technological standpoint, it's, for me, for example, I think of technology, and I use technology all the time, but as a teacher, it seems new to me. And I think a lot of that does play into how I was taught. I had my education before iPads even existed, so I didn't have an iPad, and I still learned. And I think that's kind of the thinking that a lot of people have, and it's a rational thought, but it's also a very dangerous one. It's easy to just kind of have that sense of almost pride in how you learned, and it worked for me, so why won't it work for others? And it's good to keep an open mind about technology. Another thing that the article really pointed out is that you don't really see the teacher outside of the classroom. So all the prep work that goes into it, all the lesson planning, everything, you don't see that aspect of it. So you think of a strategy that a teacher used on you that worked really well, and you kind of want to make that a habit. Well, you don't necessarily see the amount of work that they put in to develop that strategy. You see it in action. So you don't see how many times they did something similar that wasn't quite right and failed, and really just how much research was put into it. So it's easy to just kind of brush that off and say, well, this teacher was just naturally good at teaching, when that's not usually the case. It's hard work. So to answer the question, I suppose, this article doesn't really go into how or what type of technology to incorporate. I think it goes more into why, or rather why it sometimes isn't. And I think it's interesting to think that technology hasn't always been used. So when you think to how you learned, you think, well, I never used an iPad, so I'm not going to use an iPad to teach now. And then it goes into explaining ways of why that might be the case, and it kind of exposes that as really just a dangerous line of thinking, based on the fact that you continuously need to grow. So even if you pick up a great habit from one of your teachers, 15 years later, it may not be such a great habit to have, and may be unsuccessful. And I think that goes for technology, especially because in 10 years from now, when I'm still teaching, if I'm still teaching the technology that I'm using today, it may not be relevant, and it may not be the best technology available. So I think the the best thing that I got from this article is that natural isn't always the best. So just falling back into your natural state of what you think a teacher should do is not necessarily the best. It's oftentimes the easiest, but it's good to get out of that comfort zone and to challenge yourself to learn new strategies and techniques and use other platforms, especially technology, to expand on your teaching and really just help the students succeed.